Newsroom South East. More snow is forecast as the big freeze continues. Farmers fear livestock could die in the blizzard conditions. And how you could sing with seen another day of Arctic conditions in the southeast, with weathermen predicting no let-up in the snow. Thousands of school children had another day at home, and many commuters, heeding police warnings, gave up the battle to get to work and stayed at home too. An Old Bailey judge missed a justice alley, and in Essex, some skied to work. At Westminster, MPs called for London hotels to offer their empty rooms to the homeless. We have a series of reports on the snowbound southeast, the first on how London's coping, from Duncan Kennedy.
A journey to nowhere. The blank destination boards at Waterloo was not a welcome sight for thousands of passengers today.
It's nonsense, isn't it? Country grain's too old for it to be gone.
I've come from Australia for this.
What's it like in Australia now?
It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I think I might have made a mistake coming at this time of the year.
British Rail blamed frozen points for many of the problems and said they were revising their timetable. Buses and tubes were also hit by delay and cancellation, provoking one London MP to label the capital's transport snarl-up a disgrace.
What we're seeing in London is the way that there is no overall planning for these sort of occasions. We're very, very bad in this country and in London at dealing with adverse weather conditions.
In response, the Department of Transport said this afternoon transport had flowed reasonably well given the conditions.
With no electricity.
Emergency services too have been inundated with calls. The London Fire Brigade has tripled its workload, up to one call every minute, although they say many could have been dealt with without them.
A number of them have been to such things as related to the weather.
Most drivers appear to have taken the advice of motoring organisations to stay off the road.
Flights were delayed or cancelled, with it proving virtually impossible to keep rails free of ice. It was a similar picture for rail travellers in Berkshire, with many arriving at Reading Station only to face a long, cold wait. The Berkshire Emergency Team has been coordinating efforts to keep the roads moving. All major routes in the county are open, but minor roads are described as hazardous. But the weather has produced sights which under different circumstances would be a delight. Hertfordshire Police deals with the country's busiest section of motorway, where the M1 meets the M25. Today, the usual torrent of traffic slowed to a trickle.
It appears as though people are staying at home and have taken notice of the radio broadcast to stay at home and not travel unless absolutely necessary.
Officers patrolling the roads say that people still have a lot to learn about driving in snow.
The danger is to press on a bit too fast, thinking the road's clear, and suddenly you'll find it deteriorates into total covering of snow. You can see there's two cars coming towards us. They're both moving slowly. Only the first one, I'd like to see some headlights displayed.
What about the distance the second car was behind the first one?
Too close. You've certainly got to allow yourself plenty of time.
With more heavy snow predicted for overnight, road conditions will deteriorate further. Police are reissuing their warning that you should only travel if it's absolutely necessary.
Well, across the region, Kent suffered some of the worst of the Arctic weather so far. Farmers say that newborn lambs are dying because of the intense cold. In line with early predictions, the heaviest snowfalls came late yesterday, and this morning roads in many parts of Kent simply ground to a halt. Robin Gibson's been out and sends us this report.
Appalling road conditions made many people in Kent take police advice today to stay at home and begin the weekend early. But out in the fields, in temperatures as low as -10 overnight, these newborn animals' early taste of life has been a bitter one. For these lambs, the cold couldn't have come at a worse time, and it's a simple fact of farming life that not all of them will survive this snowfall.
We've been able to house the last ones to be born, but these, we just haven't got room to bring them in.
How concerned are you?
We're very concerned. I mean, it's a daily battle just to get them fed and watered and try to keep them alive. We're definitely losing sheep all the time, picking up one or two dead bodies every morning, and it's very depressing.
The newest arrivals on Sunley Farm build up their strength inside, but there just isn't room for all 900 breeding ewes, so some must take their chance outside. At nearby built-in Grange Farm, it's just as important to keep up the strength of these 550 ewes due to lamb in April.
These ewes are, believe it or not, are trying to graze turnips. And I showed you the turnips that I was scratching down
under the snow to find. And because these turnips are frozen solid this morning, and so obviously the ewes cannot eat them, and so we have to bring all the food to them.
At Howlett Zoo near Canterbury, these tigers look content in the snow, but behind the scenes the main problem is maintaining food supplies.
Certainly this morning we were wondering what was going to happen to our two-weekly supply, which fortunately arrived. Other than that, we haven't had any major problems with regard to the animals themselves. Obviously, the public had the problem getting to us. We are open.
So far, the county has coped with the conditions, but this afternoon, Army Land Rovers were brought in to back up police stations like this one in Cranbrook in the Weald of Kent.
The problem we have, as you see here today, whilst many of the main roads are clear, the back roads and the country roads are severely covered in snow.
Well, that's the situation in Kent, but it looks as if Essex has suffered the worst effects of the blizzards. Our Essex camera team's been stuck in a snowdrift for several hours. So on the phone with the latest situation is Richard Lucas from BBC Essex. Richard, how is Essex faring at the moment?
Well, Essex has been at a standstill today with a foot of snow blanketing the county. Tens of thousands of people decided to stay at home rather than risk the journey to work. Many villages have been cut off and even the main roads have been impassable at times. Broken down and jackknifed.
Quite so bad heading out of London this evening. The roads are all still very busy, particularly the motorway routes, but it's certainly nothing like the usual Friday evening rush. Traffic seems to be moving fairly well, although the motorways are all affected by slush, and we're told now by a lot of the police motorway controls that the slush is turning to black ice, and that's causing hazardous conditions on most of the motorways. So the traffic is moving, it's very slow, and it's likely to get worse overnight because of the freezing conditions.
Any advice for the weekend, quickly?
Well, basically, if you have to go out, then be prepared for the journey. Better still, stay at home, keep warm, and if the journey is absolutely essential, make sure your car's topped up with antifreeze, carry warm clothing with you, and a shovel and some sand if you can get hold of it as well.
Marianne, very good advice. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
With temperatures among the